Prabhupada ki jai. Natakoti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So now we'll read the invocation on page 1 of the Bhagavad Gita. So if everyone has it, we can flip to page 1. And this is the auspicious invocation. So before we read the Bhagavad Gita, we chant these prayers. And you can repeat as you know, and don't worry about any mispronunciations, just try. And over time, it'll become very comfortable. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Kṛṣṇa Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sham He Kṛṣṇa Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Nice to see everyone. Nice to be back. So the first verse that we read in this invocation says, I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with a torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So you can see the mood in invoking our opportunity to study this Bhagavad Gita. One, acknowledge. We don't know. We need some knowledge. And that knowledge is like a torchlight, like a light. If this room is completely dark, we don't know what is where. What will happen if I take one step this way or one step that way? We don't know. What is on the walls? What is in safety or danger? We don't know. But as soon as somebody flips on the light, our fears dissipate, and we can see things as they are. So who flips on the light for us? This light of knowledge, so that we may see things as they are. It is the spiritual master. So we offer our pranams and our obeisances to the spiritual master for giving us this great gift. Just like if we were stranded in a dark forest and someone gave us a flashlight or a light, how grateful we would be. Because with that light, we obtain the means to escape, to find our freedom. Right? So, we're going to see in this verse we'll discuss today, the first verse of the second chapter, this very important topic about becoming free from doubts. Right? So before we study that, I thought we could do a short review of what we talked about 2 weeks ago when we introduced the Bhagavad Gita. So, we said that the introduction that Srila Prabhupada presented, it was broken up into 6 parts. And the first part was, Prabhupada explained how to approach the Bhagavad Gita. Meaning how one not should physically approach it, but what our consciousness should be as we begin to read the Bhagavad Gita. And anybody remember what Srila Prabhupada recommended for us? How we should approach the study of this Bhagavad Gita? Devotion. In a spirit of devotion. Which means in a spirit of love. Love for God. Love for Kṛṣṇa. If we try to approach the Bhagavad Gita in this academic means, this very scientific academic study, we'll not extract the nectar. If we approach it in a challenging mood, it will not reveal itself. It is compared to licking the outside of a bottle of honey. No matter how much you try, you'll not taste the honey by licking the outside of the bottle. Though you're very close to that honey, it's just, you're separated by 1 millimeter. We may think, I have read this Bhagavad Gita over and over and over again. But the nectar will not penetrate the heart, will not open the bottle of nectar of this Bhagavad Gita without the spirit of devotion. 2, Srila Prabhupada explains the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. And what is the primary purpose of the Bhagavad Gita? Anybody remember?
We are not body here.
That is the principal topic, yes? But for what is the purpose for which Kṛṣṇa is speaking? We are not this body, we are spirit, soul, and all the other topics.
And people were very selfish,
People were selfish,
so he just wanted to show the actual reality.
but what was the result of their selfishness?
Repeated
Misery.
Misery. So the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita is 1, to uplift everyone, whoever is experiencing, from difficulties and stress and misery to a platform of happiness and peace. Love. That is the purpose, to bring relief from all of the difficulties one faces. For that reason, Kṛṣṇa spoke the Bhagavad Gita. That's it. He's not speaking to find more followers. He's not speaking to establish his own fame. His only goal in speaking to Arjuna is to bring Arjuna from a position of, what was Arjuna's condition as we discussed in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita?
He was confused.
He was confused. What else? What were his other...
Disheartened.
He was disheartened.
He was fearful.
He was fearful. What else?
He wants to go to forest.
He wanted to go, he was confused. Should I go to the forest or should I fight? He was stressed.
He wanted to run away from his responsibilities.
He wanted to run away from his responsibilities. Anyone ever feel like that? We get so overwhelmed, we just want to run away. Right? Because we become... Anybody enjoys being full of anxiety or fear? The heart is beating, sweat is coming off the forehead. There is that feeling of helplessness. No. We all want freedom from that. So Kṛṣṇa is speaking to all of us to find this eternal freedom from those experiences, whether we have them momentarily or for extended periods. He established the 5 topics of the Bhagavad Gita. Bonus points. Anybody remember the 5 topics of the Bhagavad Gita?
Soul,
Soul,
supreme,
supreme,
Material nature.
material nature.
Absolute knowledge.
Absolute knowledge is, I'd say, the summary of all, yeah?
time,
Time
Karma.
and karma. So these 5 topics. Right? One little hint, if you'd like to remember a lot of this, you can bring a notebook and start writing. Just like in school when we did. And they'll start remembering all. Actually, just by the process of writing, even if you don't refer back to it, you'll remember. So these are the 5 topics covered. And what we know the importance of these 5 topics is, if we understand these 5 topics, nothing we experience ever will bewilder us. We'll know with full clarity how to respond, how to react, how to let it affect us, and how we may deal with others. With knowledge of soul, Kṛṣṇa, time, karma, and material nature. And we may wonder how. Well, stay tuned. That's coming. The 4th part of the introduction, Prabhupada explained, the process to know this knowledge. Anybody remember, how is it that we can obtain this knowledge?
Through disciple succession.
Through disciple succession. Meaning this knowledge starts with Kṛṣṇa. He is the Sarva Karana Karanam, the Anadir Adir, which means the origin of all origins, the supreme source. So from that ultimate source, all knowledge must emanate. So this knowledge is descending knowledge. Means we hear. It is not ascending, meaning I try to understand through my own means. This knowledge, other knowledge, yeah, you can try to understand through your own means. But this knowledge of who am I? Who is God? What is this world around me? Why are good things happening to me? Why are bad things happening to me? These things can only be understood through parampara. And page 30 of this Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada establishes the descending line in which this knowledge has been given from Kṛṣṇa through how it's presented from Srila Prabhupada. And this knowledge, each acharya in this line has one mission, and that is to pass on the message unchanged. Like a mailman. The postal person is delivering the letters. They're not writing the letters. They're delivering the letters. The guru is considered a postman. They're delivering the message of Kṛṣṇa. That's it. That would make one a bona fide acharya. Simply hearing what has been passed in disciplic succession. Not speculating, I think this, I think that. So that is a process to know. And what is the result of understanding this Bhagavad Gita?
Happiness.
Happiness. Peace and happiness. It's so simple. It is the universal goal of everyone. And where is it achieved? From the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, I'll ask you to answer a question. Maybe you won't have full faith in the answer, but maybe theoretically. Yeah. Can it be found anywhere else? Now we have to develop our full faith in that. Otherwise, what else we would do? If we had full faith, right? But it is a fact. It is a eternal fact also, not a temporary fact. Because this knowledge brings us to understand one principle understanding, which is we have an eternal occupation, our Sanatana Dharma. our eternal occupation as spirit soul is to serve Krishna. That's it. All our other occupations, lawyer, doctor, businessman, engineer, laborer, whatever, these are all temporary jobs. But our eternal occupation, which gives us the ultimate experience of happiness, is one thing. We are eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. When one understands that, one obtains this powerful result. And what is the practical application that Krishna is going to speak ultimately in this Bhagavad Gita? At the end of everything, 700 verses, what is he going to tell us to do? Remember the Lord.
Surrender.
Yeah. Remember and surrender. Man manavava mad bhakto mad jaji mam namaskuru. He says you do these 4 things. Become my loving friend, my devotee. You remember me. Everything will become very sweet. So this was the introduction. Now, Arjuna presented in the first chapter 5 reasons why he should not fight the war. Anybody remember any of the reasons why he said?
Like he did not like to enjoy the kingdom.
So he did not think he would find happiness if he had to kill all those on the other side to obtain the means was not worth the end result. Right? So that's one reason he said he should not fight.
It was his family.
It was his family, which means he had some compassion. Right? He said, I should forgive them. Family, they made mistakes. We all make mistakes. It is saintly to forgive. Why we have to fight? So 2.
Then he thought he's doing wrong. It will be a sin if he does that.
He was fearful of committing sin. What is the consequence of sinful activity?
Bad reaction.
Which means bad reactions leads to?
Rebirth.
But ultimately?
Misery.
Misery, suffering. Child does something bad. Reaction. Child does something good. Ice cream. Reaction. We as big children do good things, good reactions. So Arjuna said, I don't want the future suffering that may come from sinful activities. So I should not fight. Sounds logical, right? 4th reason. These are not in any order.
He was in confusion.
He was indecisive. He did not know what to do. We'll see that in the coming verses. And 5th reason. This is the
And he was thinking that his people in kingdom might think bad about him.
Not quite. I thought you were heading in the right direction. Not quite. So he was not quite worried about his own fame. Kṛṣṇa will tell him in the 2nd chapter that you think that you can tolerate dishonor. But actually as a Kshatriya cannot tolerate dishonor. It is one of their natures, qualities. And so when one receives dishonor, it makes them very unsettled. What happens when we're unsettled? Bad things.
That's a Kshatriya.
Kshatriya? Nice. Yeah, Kshatriya is so there are different characters of people. And a Kshatriya is basically a warrior or an administrator who is in charge with protecting others. So they have a very brave and warrior-like spirit. And so they also have some characteristics that they cannot tolerate things like insults. So that's a Kshatriya. But the 5th one, just in the interest, okay. Arjuna was concerned that all the leaders of society had gathered on this battlefield. And if they all perish, who will be left to create structure in society? And because of the lack of structure and leadership and guidance in society, chaos would ensue, leading to Varna Sankara. We know, when the teacher and the principal leave the school, what happens? Chaos. Well, the same thing happens with adults too. So for these 5 reasons, Arjuna said, I don't want to fight. They all sound like good reasons, right? And there was one fundamental flaw in his logic that made all of these reasons fall completely upside down. And what was the single flaw in his logic?
His body is not a soul.
He was Kshatriya and he is?
He thought he is a body, not a soul.
He was presenting his case, thinking, I am this body. And he forgot he was spirit soul. And the very important instruction here, why we spend so much time discussing this, is that Arjuna was very learned. He was trained and brought up by very righteous and learned people, meaning he had access to all the knowledge. And he presented with the best of his ability very logical, compelling reasons to not fight. Yet, after presenting all of this, what was his mood? Was he satisfied and satiated? Now after all of this, I know what I should do. Was that his mood? No. He was full in distress. And the point of this is that until we begin to see everything we do, all of our decisions, all of our relationships, all of our activities, from the lens, as if I'm wearing glasses, the lens that I am spirit soul, I am not this body, we are 100% guaranteed to end in frustration, misery, distress, anxiety, fear. Guaranteed. And the opposite is also true. As soon as we see that exact same circumstance, which is the source of such extreme emotional discomfort, as soon as I see that from the lens, I am spirit soul, immediately we can make sense and find peace from it. Even in the midst of a very ferocious battle. The conflict that Arjuna was about to face is like none other we hopefully will ever face. To put it in some kind of perspective of what Arjuna was faced and the level of anxiety. You imagine you went to a big family reunion after 25 years. All family is arranged in one beautiful hall. Great party, many generations, an extended family, people we have not seen for a long time. They've all gathered after many years. And after some time, somebody comes with a piece of tape. And they put a piece of tape down in the middle of the hall. And they say, now okay, whoever is on this side will now fight with whoever is on this side till death. Now, what kind of nasty, difficult situation that would be? It would be the most horrific of things one could ever imagine. That was the situation Arjuna was in. But as soon as he remembered, by the instruction of Kṛṣṇa, your spirit soul, he could make sense of even that extreme of a situation. So then imagine when we get in difficulties in the office, with our friends, with our neighbor, with our loved ones, lack of clarity of what I should do career-wise, family-wise, should I live here, should I live there, buy this car? When we start to make those decisions, I am spirit soul, then we'll find great clarity. But until then, it won't happen. So this second chapter, we're going to see how to understand things from the perspective of I am spirit soul. We're going to talk a lot about the soul. So this first verse in the second chapter is very nice because it begins to show us where to direct our energy of compassion. So someone wants to read you can read the translation and someone can read the purport.
Can I read?
Yeah, please.
Sañjaya uvāca tathā kṛpayāviṣṭam aśru-pūrṇākulekṣaṇam viṣīdantam vākyam uvāca madhusūdana.
You can read the bold. Sañjaya said,
Sañjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusūdana Kṛṣṇa spoke the following words.
Someone can read the purport.
Material compassion, lamentation, and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self. Compassion for the eternal soul is self-realization. The word Madhusūdana is significant in this verse. Lord Kṛṣṇa killed the demon Madhu, and now Arjuna wanted Kṛṣṇa to kill the demon of misunderstanding that had overtaken him in the discharge of his duty. No one knows where compassion should be applied. Compassion for the dress of a drowning man is senseless. A man fallen in the ocean of nescience cannot be saved simply by rescuing his outward dress, the gross material body. One who does not know this and laments for the outward dress is called a Sudra, or one who laments unnecessarily. Arjuna was a Kshatriya and this conduct was not expected from him. Lord Kṛṣṇa, however, can dissipate the lamentation of the ignorant man, and thus for this purpose the Bhagavad Gita was sung by him. This chapter instructs us in self-realization by an analytical study of the material body and the spirit soul, as explained by the Supreme Authority Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa. This realization is possible when one works without attachment to fruitive results and is situated in the fixed conception of the real self.
Okay. So Sañjaya is saying, see Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears. Madhusūdana, Kṛṣṇa spoke the following words. So is lamentation bad? Is crying and being lamenting, is it bad? No. But when is it considered not wise? In a general sense. When a child is bitterly crying because he has to go to bed, would we consider that wise lamentation?
No.
No, because it's silly, right? So when is lamentation bad?
Crying for no reason.
Crying for no good reason. When we take our trash to the bin, and if we sit outside the bin and are crying, oh, I've lost my trash, I've lost my garbage, I've lost my rubbish, would that be considered very intelligent? No. Why? Because it has no value. Right? So lamentation, eyes full of tears, is not bad. But we should know what we should really lament for. So on a general basis, what should we lament for?
Lack of knowledge.
Yes, we should lament for lack of knowledge. But in a general sense, what is it that, if we're not going to lament for trash because it has no value, what is it that we can truly lament for?
What we need.
What we really need, something of importance, something of value. So Prabhupada makes a very strong statement. And one of the wonderful things in how Prabhupada establishes his purports, he opens the purports with a very strong statement that sometimes, really? And then he begins to explain with great detail why that statement. So if we read the first sentence again, material compassion, lamentation, and tears are all signs of ignorance of self, of the real self. It's a very strong statement. Right? It's a very strong statement. But we'll see how actually that is non-different than someone standing next to the garbage bin and crying. And we'd say that is not very wise. That is ignorant. So Prabhupada and Kṛṣṇa are going to explain. Lamenting for the body is of no significance. But why do we lament for the body?
Because we want to satisfy ourselves.
Because we are attached to it. We want to satisfy. We see it as a means for possibly having our eternal existence. So we attach to it. So then, Krishna is going to see, don't attach to the body. Attach to something higher, the spirit soul. For that, you can lament. And Prabhupada speaks about compassion, right? So we'll discuss that. Now Arjuna is referring, and Sañjaya is referring, is conveying the message that Krishna has been called Madhusūdana. So we'll see in this chapter, Arjuna refers to Krishna by many names. And these names he picks are very specifically reasons. He's going to call him Govinda. He's going to call him Rishikesha. He's going to call him Achyutya. He's going to call him many specific names. So specifically Madhusūdana. Why Arjuna calls Krishna Madhusūdana?
Because he killed the demon called Madhu.
He killed the demon called Madhu. And what was the request Arjuna was making by referring back to this pastime of killing the demon Madhu? What did Arjuna want? To kill his doubts. Anybody enjoys doubts?
No.
Anybody enjoys not knowing what is on the other side of this wall? What is coming tomorrow? The knowledge, the doubt of how long I will even live, what will happen. These things become like demons. If we don't manage them well, they can haunt us. They can make us very... So Arjuna is saying, Krishna, like you destroyed the demon Madhusūdana, please destroy my doubts. Because when we have no more doubts, we have great clarity. Like you said, knowledge, right? We can lament for not having knowledge, because knowledge is power. The power to achieve and to overcome. So in that opening verse in the invocation, with the light of knowledge, my spiritual master opened my eyes. Okay? So here Arjuna is saying, destroy my doubts. And that can be the mood, that should be the mood in which we approach this Bhagavad Gita. My dear Lord Krishna, bring clarity upon me of all these things that are nonsensical. Like Arjuna facing the idea of I have to kill my grandfather and guru? How that can make sense? And how it makes sense what career I should choose, what I should do here, which car I should buy, this. We have all kinds of doubts. Where am I going in life? Why am I here? What is my purpose? When we have these answers, right? So, Arjuna was full of compassion. And Kṛṣṇa, in the coming verse, is going to say, how have these impurities come upon you? That's exactly what he says in the next verse, the second verse. They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy. O son of Pritha, in the third verse, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of enemy. Oh, Kṛṣṇa is speaking very strongly here, right? He's saying, how have these impurities come upon you? So, is it wrong to be compassionate? Is Kṛṣṇa chastising Arjuna for being compassionate?
No, it's being compassionate about the wrong thing.
Yes. He is not upset or not trying to shake. And Kṛṣṇa is not upset. But we know if someone is in a dangerous position, what do? We want to protect them. If someone is walking towards a very dangerous electrical fence, will we say, hey, don't touch that? Hey, by the way, no, we'll do, no, stop. Sometimes even, you fool, come back. Whatever it takes, right? So we're going to see, sometimes Kṛṣṇa is going to speak in a very strong approach because he wants to protect Arjuna and protect all of us from making some dangerous decisions. So one of them is where we put our compassion. So Kṛṣṇa is not saying don't be compassionate. He's saying don't be compassionate for the trash you just threw out in the bin. That is not very wise. If that kind of compassion weakens you, you have not understood anything. So what does it mean to be compassionate? What is compassion? There's no right answer. Just what does it mean to you?
A caring and an understanding for another human being.
Okay.
Caring.
Caring and understanding for another human being. You said?
Caring.
Caring. Okay. What else?
To protect someone.
To protect someone. Okay. Any other?
I think of it always too as even understanding if it's like outside our realm of understanding. Do you know what I mean?
Understanding is outside, acknowledging.
That I
Yep. That's compassion. Yeah. Any other?
forgiveness.
Forgiveness is compassion. It's one of the reasons Arjuna said, I should forgive. Right? Is it easy to forgive?
It's the most hardest thing to do.
It's the most hardest thing to do. And we're going to see, when we understand we are a spirit soul, it is the easiest thing to do. What prohibits us from forgiving is our ego.
Yes.
Our ego is so strong. It gets in the way of our ability to forgive. As if I forgive, I'm physically going to be harmed. Or I'm going to lose something. Right? So, any other ideas of compassion? Or I can...
Accepting mistakes.
Accepting mistakes. So, this is one definition I saw. A feeling of deep sympathy and sorrow for another who is stricken by misfortune, accompanied by a strong desire to alleviate their suffering. I thought this was very complete. Right? This sorrow and caring for another. Maybe even broader than humans, all. And accompanied with this desire to help. What is the natural tendency of us in a pure state when we see somebody else in difficulty?
We want to help them.
We want to help. That is a natural nature. That is the nature of all of us. But why don't we always do it?
Because of the ego.
Because we are not compassionate.
Sometimes we lose that compassion. It is considered impure, right? We worry more about ourselves sometimes. Maybe we think, oh, then I'll have to endure difficulty, right? There's many. Sometimes there's natural limitations, of course. But this compassion we see, it's actually a universal trait. Because the soul is actually very compassionate. It's a beautiful quality, right? So I thought this definition was nice. This is no specific one, so.
But you cannot apply compassion anywhere, everywhere.
Well, that we're coming to. Yes. Hold that thought. Right? So what is the goal of our compassion?
To end someone else's suffering.
To end someone else's suffering. Any other goals? I think that's almost as complete as you can get.
Yeah.
Right? Not just to help, but to end it. And end it has some very important connotation. Right? So the goal is really to help someone. Right? To help someone. Not just, when one's compassion is there for the hope of receiving fame for such compassion, then it is diluted. It's not real compassion. Right? Then there's a selfish interest in our compassion. When we truly, and we see the great persons who have roamed this planet have had a very compassionate mood. I mean, any examples anyone wants to share? Some people have been very compassionate in our Mother Teresa is a very famous one. She had no motive. Any other?
Prabhupada.
We'll see how that is the ultimate. And I will say, no one has ever distributed more compassion in our recent memory. Which may seem like a strong statement, but as we get through this, you'll see why that is 100% fact. So our goal is to help, right? And what kind of help? You kind of gave us the answer in your complete, concise definition. What kind of help do we want to give? To someone? Huh?
Which would end the suffering.
End it? How long?
Permanent.
Permanent. We want a permanent end, right? If I'm going to put forth my efforts and energies to help someone, I want to bring permanent results. Is that right? Anybody wants to temporarily help someone? If they have the means to give, of course, if we have no other means, then the best we can do is temporary, we'll do. But if we have the means for a permanent solution, anyone will choose temporary? If you go see a doctor, does the doctor say, I'll fix him temporarily, when he has the permanent cure in his hand? I think yes. When would he do that?
But you need both, right?
When he what?
After we collected all the fees, then he'll give the permanent solution.
And when it's not good for business, then he may give the temporary solution. Otherwise, he's acting in pure compassion, he's going to give the permanent result. Right? So, we want to give permanent help. Right?
But you need both, right?
Huh?
But we need both, right? Temporary and permanent.
Well, by definition, with permanent, temporary is included.
And you cross the state of temporary to permanent, yeah.
Right? So temporary is all inclusive, and I'm going to show this a little bit in a specific example. But definitionally, if something is permanent, it means all temporary nature has been eradicated. Just take hunger, for example. If I'm permanently cured for hunger, it means I'm also temporarily cured from hunger.
No, but we have to first cross the temporary stage. Only then we can go to permanent.
Okay. Hold that thought. And then I'll ask you if you want to first cross the temporary stage, then come to the permanent. Okay? Hold that thought. So now let's reflect back. We want to be compassionate. Krishna is not chastising Arjuna for being compassionate. What is he chastising Arjuna for being?
Compassionate about the wrong thing.
Compassionate about the wrong thing. Why? Because it's a waste of one's emotional energy. Meaning it's not a good use of one's ability. Whatever we have the ability to do, we want the highest ROI. Highest return on investment. For all you business folks, finance folks, and all you others looking, what the heck is ROI? Return on idlis? Return on investment. Meaning, whatever effort we put in, we want the maximum effect, the most outcome. Right? When we have 2 hours to enjoy in the weekend, we want to find which will give me the most happiness in those 2 hours. So, let us see how to invest our compassionate energy most wisely. Because we have limited abilities, limited time, limited resources, limited energies. Krishna is unlimited, we are limited. So with what ability we have, where we can maximize our compassion. Okay? So let's think now. What is the source of our suffering?
Expectations.
Expectations.
It's our mind.
It is our mind.
Mine's my bills.
I love it. Bills.
Our past actions.
Our past actions. Which was what topic of the Bhagavad Gita? Which topic of the 5?
Materialistic.
Karma. Right? This gentleman's knocked over the what's going to happen?
Do you really think we have to connect everything to karma? Then it will be like, whatever I do, it's my karma.
Do I think? I don't know what I think, but I know what Krishna says. Every action carries an equal and opposite reaction. So every ounce of suffering that I encounter, I cannot blame any of you. I cannot blame my government. I cannot blame my neighbor, my wife, my children. Who I can blame? Put up the mirror. Innocent old me? Me? No. Did I cause? Why this block fell on my head? Action equals reaction. Because if it did not, it means that there's some mistake in the system. If something happens to me that is not in exact proportion to a prior action, suppose I get the flu. If it occurs without exact proportion to a prior action, it means one of 3 things is incorrect. Either the Supreme Lord is not all-powerful, meaning He's not strong enough to stop that from happening. Or it means God, Kṛṣṇa, is not all-knowing, meaning He didn't know I was about to get the flu. Or 3, it means God is not all-loving. It means He loves some, but He doesn't love me. Because if I was not supposed to get the flu due to my past karma, but somehow it happened, it means either God didn't know, either He wasn't strong enough to stop it, He wasn't fast enough, was busy doing something else, or He didn't care. Because otherwise, He would have stopped. So the laws of karma are very clear. Not an easy pill always to swallow, but it is a fact. Every single thing that happens to us is based on our past karma. Good and bad, by the way. Good and bad.
And it also means that the past karma is not in this life because of this body.
Dhritarashtra learned that firsthand. Yes. Karma accrues lifetime after lifetime. So what I'm seeing today, maybe from something I did yesterday, maybe something I did 100 lifetimes ago. I don't know. I don't know. But who knows? So, if someone is suffering, we said compassion is to end someone's suffering, right? I think that was almost word for word. End human beings suffering, something along those lines. What is the permanent way to end someone's suffering? How do we end someone's suffering? Huh? Is it possible? Let's first say, is it possible to end someone's suffering?
Temporarily it is possible.
Permanently, is it possible? So one vote for no.
Depends upon the problem he's having.
One is a contingent. Qualified, maybe. Is it possible to solve someone's suffering permanently?
Maybe to an extent.
Maybe to an extent.
Or do you think we really need to end this suffering?
Do we need to end this suffering? Does anybody not want to? Anybody wants suffering?
No, but if it's
No, because
the
if it-
karma,
If it's like past karma, then he has to suffer, right? So there is no point in ending. So it will come back again.
So is it going to come back again? That's a good point. You know, if I am going to wash my car and it's going to rain again, what's the point of washing the car? It's going to rain again. So is there any point of anyone suffering if another one is coming down the pipe? That's a nice, and I think that's kind of your point too. It's coming anyways. So what can we do about it? Is there anything we can do about it? Who's saying yes in the back? What can we do?
We can do devotional service.
How is devotional service going to help? I'm hungry.
Yeah.
How that's going to help?
Yeah.
By taking prasad.
How?
Yeah, by taking prasada, yeah.
How is it going to help?
It's not.
Okay, one says it's not. So, you all have your Bhagavad Gitas. I want you to read verse 66, page 705, 1866, page 705. It's the very end of the Bhagavad Gita. You can just read the translation. What does Kṛṣṇa say?
Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from.
No, 66.
I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions and all.
Oh! Kṛṣṇa says, I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. And then what assurance he gives? Do not fear. What is our fear?
Suffering.
Is it really true? Right? We have some doubts. Kṛṣṇa says, I shall deliver you from all. He doesn't say some. He says sarva. Sarva means all. So whatever sinful reactions we've done in the past, it all can be permanently wiped out by bhakti, by devotional service. By devotional service, one's entire account that's been accumulated for millions of lifetimes can be wiped out. And who's going to wipe it out? But that takes some faith, does it not?
But does that mean that you're never going to get sick, you're never going to have a bad day, you're never going to get fired?
That is a good question. Yes, it does not mean that you will never get another difficult thing in your life. But what one will understand, it is like this. When one comes to devotional service, Prabhupada explained this like a fan. When a fan is plugged into the wall, it's spinning. When you unplug it, it's still spinning, but it's slowing down. and slowing down. And eventually it's going to stop. It's the same thing with this. When we come to the practice of devotional service, yes, still some residual karma will come. But we are very rapidly bringing it to a halt. And when will it ultimately halt? When we go back home. When we go back home. Read the 65th verse. The verse just prior to that. What does Kṛṣṇa say?
Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage upon me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend.
Where is the permanent freedom from all suffering, birth, death, old age, disease, stress, anxiety, fear, conflict, everything? Where does it exist? In Hawaii? No, not in Hawaii. In Tahiti? Where does it exist? In the spiritual world, in Krishna's home. And he says, thus you will come to me without fail. So, we have to know how to help someone. When someone is in an ocean, if our compassion is directed to one's body, it is like saving the clothes of a drowning man. When I pull the clothes up into the boat, what have I done? Or what have I not done?
You wasted a lot of time and energy.
Yeah, because what happened?
You still drowned.
The person is still drowning. What we want to do is pull the person into the boat. When you pull the person, what automatically comes with it? Clothes are not left behind. Similarly, when our compassion is directed to the body, Prabhupada explains, it is like saving the clothes of a drowning man. You have forgotten the person, the spirit soul that is suffering. So when we think about our compassion, Krishna is telling Arjuna, think what is good for the soul, not what is just good for the body. But when you serve what is good for the soul, you'll automatically also serve the body. Don't think you're going to leave that behind. Just like when you pull the person into the boat, you're also saving the shirt on his or her back. In a really simple example. If someone is hungry, and this example may be hard to digest, but just hear it. If someone is hungry, why are they hungry first of all? Why are they suffering from hunger?
Because they don't have food?
No money.
And why don't they have food or money?
Karma.
Because of their karma. Because of their karma. If I give them a plate of food, what have I done?
Temporarily hungry.
I have nourished their belly. But I have temporarily helped. Why temporary?
Because they're going to be hungry again.
And why do we know they're going to be hungry again? You're right.
Because it's their karma.
Because it's their karma. If their karma said you'll have to be hungry for 10 days, and I give somebody a plate of food on the first day, does it mean now they'll only be hungry for 9 more days?
No.
So if I want to bring the 10 days of hunger down, what can I do for them?
Bring them 10 meals.
Okay, so if I bring them 10 meals, how long are they going to stay hungry?
10 more days.
10 more days. Why? That's their karma. So how can I help them actually reduce the amount of suffering they're going to experience. By doing what?
Kill their karma.
By how?
Make them
Giving
Kṛṣṇa
them
conscious.
job.
But they're hungry.
Bring them prasadam.
Prasadam. Now if I bring them a plate of prasadam, what am I doing? I'm filling their belly.
Nourishing the soul.
I'm nourishing the body, but
And nourishing the soul also, because it's spiritual.
because taking prasadam is also devotional service, bhakti. Which means by the performance of bhakti, what happens to our karma? It reduces. So now, which is more compassionate? Bringing them a plate of food or bringing them a plate of prasadam?
But for him, it's he doesn't know the difference, right?
Does it matter? I'll ask the question. Whether he or she knows the difference. Does it matter? It does not matter. Whether you know fire is hot or not, when you put your hand in a fire, does it matter whether you know or not, whether you'll get burned? Whether we know or not, by honoring prasadam, the effect is there. Our devotion has grown and our karma account has been reduced. Whether we know it or not. That is the great benefit and compassion Kṛṣṇa has. So if we want to show compassion to other living entities around us, to end their suffering, what must we do?
We should engage them in devotional
Make them Kṛṣṇa conscious.
And make them Kṛṣṇa. Engage them in devotional service. Why? Because by practicing Kṛṣṇa consciousness, they will eliminate, vanquish all of their karmic account and experience this bliss and happiness and permanently end the sufferers. And who is suffering? Who is suffering?
everyone.
Everyone. We think the neighbor behind, no, they have everything perfect. They don't worry about the Amex bill. They have the nice new car. They never fight. They're always walking out of the house smiling. Wow, child is always, never has any stains on their clothes. Everything is perfect. But we don't know when the doors close. Kurukshetra unfolds. Arrows are drawn in pots and pans. Pens. Yes, it's there. Everyone is suffering. Prabhupada, he's always saying, everyone is suffering the pangs of material existence. No one is free from adhyatmic, adibautik, adidevik. Birth, death, old age, nobody is free. Yeah, maybe relative degrees, but ultimately we all are suffering. So the permanent cure, the real compassion, is to bring an end to their suffering, not temporarily punt it to another day. And the only way to end someone's suffering is to awaken them to the knowledge of I am spirit soul and engage in devotional service. And that is the ultimate service to all living entities one can perform. Yes, there have been many great humanitarian efforts in the history of mankind. But the greatest humanitarian effort is that which brings this knowledge. Because it has the ability to permanently end. And when the permanent end comes, also all the temporary suffering comes with it. When you save the person, the clothes come with it too. When you feed the hungry person prasadam, the body is nourished, but the soul is nourished. You do not leave one behind. And the art of spiritual compassion is to know how to engage each and every person. Because if someone is hungry, you cannot say, read this Bhagavad Gita. You say, my belly is hungry. So we don't do that. We take them a rasgulla. Say, enjoy this. Come, we'll feed you tomorrow too. And now read the Bhagavad Gita. We know what? If someone is not so interested in reading, okay, you sing and dance for the Lord. I don't like the singing. Okay, you come and you render some service to the Lord. Use your skill. Whatever we have, we engaged. And that is what Srila Prabhupada did. So expertly. Engaged everyone. Created this International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Everyone, regardless of their interest, abilities, background, can immediately engage in this permanent cure to ending suffering. And it will not happen by showing compassion to the body. It is non-different than lamenting for the trash that is sitting. Because this body is also going right back into the dustbin. It is. I may not want to acknowledge it, but where is it going? Right back in to the landfill. Maybe under a nice stone. Maybe as ashes in some river. But that's where it's going.
It's material.
It's material.
I think that is a major difference between the pious activities and the devotional.
There's a gulf of difference, right? Because if we don't teach each other how to end more karma, more reactions, all I'm doing, as Parikshit Maharaj said, is taking a bath like an elephant. I purify of all my sins and then immediately do more sins. What is the point of this prayaschita? These purificatory rituals? No, we have to purify the heart of its misconceptions. And that comes in this Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna opens this most important second chapter with this explanation of compassion. And our compassion should be not just to those that we like. Krishna is going to say, the real devotee who has controlled his mind in the 6th chapter, these beautiful verses, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, he's going to say that one who has conquered this understanding even has great compassion to their enemies. Now that takes a very strong person to be compassionate to their enemies. It's easy to be compassionate to your friends, or easier. But one who has conquered the mind has the strength to even be compassionate to their enemies.
But your enemy is just a person too.
Exactly. That's why you're compassionate. You see, why is this person acting? It's because they're temporarily illusioned. Let me, through compassion, try to help uplift them. Yeah, I'm not taking personally that are calling me names and giving it. And ultimately one sees, I have no enemies. Because if someone comes and boop, slaps me, why did I get slapped? Karma. So don't hate the instrument of your karma. Just because this person came and delivered you your slap, why are you going to hate on that person? They're just an instrument of your karma. Hate the karma. Why did I do that? I'm so foolish. But instead, what do? Back. And then what does he do? Back. And when does it end?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. And that goes on perpetually.
No, you hitting that guy, does that bring more bad karma?
Yeah, that's the point. I hit him, he hits me. I hit him, and it goes on and on. When I realize this person comes and hits me, thank you. One less karma I have to now take.
No,
How many of us do that?
But if he repeats again and again.
Well, we have to be practical.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So we have to be practical. We cannot say, yes, keep beating me. I'm giving an example. That's why Arjuna is going to be told to fight. Because he has to follow the practical rules of his function as Kshatriya.
But there are pure souls like in Chaitanya Charitamrita also we have seen that people were hitting them, but they were
Yeah. Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was being beaten in the marketplace, 22 marketplaces.
Yeah.
And the whole time Krishna had sent Sudarshan the Chakra to kill all those who were beating his great devotee. And the Chakra did not come. Because Haridas Thakur was saying, please forgive these people. They're illusion. They're just following the orders of their master. They are doing nothing wrong. Now that vision is not weakness, trust me. It takes enormous strength, spiritual strength. And when one does, they actually conquer all difficulties of life. Doesn't mean it's not going to rain on us. It's going to rain on us. We're going to get sick. But it won't affect us, won't affect our consciousness. So this is the first verse of the second chapter. Any other comments or questions? Doubts? Yeah.
Maybe this question is stupid, but
No such thing?
like if you see in India, right, there are beggars sitting outside the temple.
There are what?
There are beggars sitting outside the temple. They eat prasadam every day from the temple. So how to interpret this?
How beggars outside the temple are eating prasad, so how come they're not now rich and living in a palace? Yeah, right? Okay.
How come they're not
How
out
come
of
they're not?
misery?
How come they're not out of the misery?
I have
Well,
a question. I
yeah.
have a question to the same thing. Like, you said prasadam can cure, right? Do you have any practical example it happened?
Yes.
Those who are suffering and due to the prasadam, something specific, it has cured their totally life in just span of 1 year. Do you have a practical example in very recent days?
There are many, many examples. I'll answer both your questions. Srila Prabhupada started this whole movement with prasadam. People were suffering specifically from LSD addiction. It was the most painful addiction because coming off of LSD was an insanely horrific experience. And so many people who started coming specifically at 26 2nd Avenue were able to get off of this very painful drug by the power of prasadam alone. And so many memoirs and stories have been written by great devotees. So many people, even in recent times, their attraction to the temple first starts with prasadam. You have practical examples, right? That's where it starts so many people's attraction. And everyone has different attractions for it. So it is all equally potent, but it is based on our faith. Once, Ramanujacharya was walking along the river with some of his disciples. And he was eating something, and he threw into the river. And immediately these fish kept popping out of the river and going straight up, assuming the four-arm form and going to the spiritual world. And the disciples were like, what miracle is going on? And they asked, and Ramanujacharya said, well, they are honoring Mahaprasad. It is so potent, it's fully purifying. And then the disciples said, but wait a minute, we are eating your Mahaprasad every day and we are still here. What happened? He said, because you doubt the potency of Mahaprasad, so the effect is muted. It's still there, but it's not. Those fish, they have no doubts. They see food, they lovingly are enjoying. And from that loving and enjoy, they have become fully liberated. So, the beggars outside the temple, they're being purified. No doubt. But how much sinful activities have been performed to lead to that position, we don't know. So, their suffering is guaranteed to end. It may take another lifetime or two, but how is that in comparison to millions of lifetimes of different activities? It may only take 1 day. It may only take 1 grain, depending on the degree of their faith. And that's why Kṛṣṇa says that at once one can transcend the modes of material nature. Daivi hesha gunamai mamam maya durataya mameva ye prapadante mayatam itarantite. Easily one can cross over Maya by surrender. So to the degree of our surrender, the result is proportionate. So those beggars also will be purified. And some will foolishly argue, this is a very controversial topic, I'll tackle it anyways. There are beggars sitting outside the temple, and we are taking milk and pouring it on some deity. What a waste of milk. They could be used to feed the people. What is the loss there of understanding? Saving the clothes versus the person.
Right.
Saving the clothes versus the person. That's it. There is no limit in resources. Om Purnam Adaha Purnam. Purnat Purnam Adachate. Purnasya Purnam Ivashte. Everything is complete. Full. But we are misusing it. So there are shortages. But trust me, by serving the Lord with what facilities we have, everyone benefits. Any other questions? Yeah.
Does drinking give you bad karma?
Intoxication? Or drinking water?
Intoxication.
So there are many degrees of karma. But yes, intoxicating is a form of karma. And it's interesting you bring up that topic, because I was thinking about that specific topic recently. That even the concept of intoxication. So if we think about intoxication, we're consuming a substance to achieve a certain state of mind, a certain freedom from certain things. It's an experiential process. To experience something, nobody, if they're truly honest, enjoyed whatever intoxicating beverage the first time they drank it. But what happens? You acquire the taste. It's a tolerance to it, to then transforms into a likeness of it. But actually it's a not pleasant substance. But we do it to achieve a certain substance. And this is the power of misinformed endeavors. But one can achieve that same experience in a very sweet way through the process of transcendental spiritual realization. That's why when Srila Prabhupada was here, some of the early devotees, they would make flyers. And you know what the flyers would say? Stay high forever. Because the big thing about the drug days was the come down. Right? What do they call it? The come down, or something like that. Like when you came off of the drug. And the goal was to stay high forever, actually. And they would promote these programs as stay high forever. Because it's the true way to stay high forever. This spiritual intoxication, the spiritual drinking, is what?
I mean, if you drink and then do bhakti.
If you drink and then do bhakti.
If you drink, you forget yourself.
No, I mean, it depends, right, again.
Yeah, but that's like trying to light a fire and pouring water on it. You can try. But you're pouring water and lighting.
The example you said, elephant.
Yeah, look at that, yeah. So there are degrees of karma now. We have to be mindful. There are like severe karmas and lesser and lesser and lesser and lesser and lesser. You know, a fly comes in and you do that. That's karma. You've killed a living entity. Right? You're driving down the street. How many living entities are killing? There's some karma. But it's small. So what Kṛṣṇa is going to teach us is how to do all these activities, driving down the street. Even having to sometimes kill through protecting society, but to do it in a karma-free way. So, and remember one thing, Kṛṣṇa doesn't expect us to become karma-free overnight. Or he doesn't say, you know what, you must be karma-free to begin. Because if he did, none of us would even be able to start. All of us began fully immersed in all kinds of sinful. I've always, maybe not in this life, prior, yes, we've all performed all kinds of these activities. Nothing to worry. Why? Because the potency of this knowledge is, yes, we will purify. And the Lord says, no one is unqualified to offer me a fruit, flower, leaf, or water. No one is unqualified. Just start. And slowly, we'll come to some of these higher tastes, and we'll see that towards the end of this chapter. So, yes, the bitter truth is yes, but don't worry. That's my answer.
In the first verse, Prabhupada says Sudra for showing why Sudra is an occupation, right? But he is again comparing with the knowledge. The person who doesn't have knowledge.
We'll discuss that later. When he's speaking on varnashram, there are different qualities that exist with all varnas, and there is no, in an absolute sense, higher or lower. But due to social context, we create these, higher and lower. They're compared to the body. Are the legs any truly less important than the head? So, in one way, no. In one way, yes, right? But reality is, everything needs everything. The legs need the head needs the leg. They're codependent. Arms need the torso, and like this. So, but there are certain qualities that exist, and Shudras have a more tendency to lament on many things. I can say it broadly, but it doesn't make them any less. Krishna is going to say in the 9th chapter, no one is disqualified from practicing this most confidential knowledge.
Then why do we restrict, back in India, in many temples they don't allow people, right? It still exists,
Still exists? Jagannath temple? It's not correct?
Yeah, it's not correct.
It's not correct?
For Jagannath temple they don't allow.
No.
Oh, not this.
No non-Hindus.
Yeah.
Non-Hindus.
It's not correct?
No, even in Hindus they don't allow many sub-caste,
It's wrong. Absolutely, unequivocally wrong. They don't understand philosophy.
Yeah.
They haven't read and understood Krishna's message.
Right.
By one simple fact. How Krishna would say, some of my children can do and some of my children cannot. What kind of father you would judge a father to be if he loved some of his children and not his others? You'd consider that a very good father? So how can we say Krishna would allow some of us into the temple and not others? There's no bona fide scripture or evidence of such. But because of someone's personal initiative, ego, pride, politics, business, whatever reasons, they construct these, but it is not at all scripturally supported.
What did you say was wrong? I missed the original.
In some temples in India, they don't let certain types of people into the temples.
Not just temple, even the house. We are not supposed to go to someone's house. It's like
it's
because they are from the upper.
It's a social class system.
Yeah. They are from the higher class and the lower class, so we have that difference.
But that's why the whole varnashram system truly does not exist today because of egos. That's why Prabhupada said everyone is a Shudra. There are no more Brahmins.
Yeah.
It's true. Everyone's a Shudra by quality.
Yeah.
Birth has nothing to do with your Varna. And what is a perfect example?
Discontent, yeah.
Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad was a great devotee, but he was born in a family of demons. Birth has nothing to do with your qualification. Birth has nothing to do. So these are misconceptions in India that exist that are wholly foolish. But
it's all people's creation.
It's all created. There's no scriptural evidence. Nothing.
But it is very deeply rooted.
No, but again, changing is not that easy.
Yeah, that's what it is.
We cannot change it.
You can only change with changing of the heart. Philosophy.
No, but we cannot change the society, right? That's what I mean.
No, we can change. Have you changed?
I don't know.
Have you all changed? Has anyone changed? A little bit?
Yeah.
Some? Yeah, a little bit? Great. 15, 20? They've changed. Why can't? It can happen. How it happened? With an open heart.
Prabhupada wrote this, right?
Yeah, that's why he is the most compassionate humanity. If we take this, it can happen. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said every town and village. But people have to have a desire. So what is our goal, our objective? Share this with anyone we can, out of a mood of compassion.
What is this? I'm sorry.
I
didn't feel well, but I didn't want to not see you guys. So.
Yeah. So this is a very wonderful celebration we're having Saturday at the temple. So those of you maybe who have not come to the temple, you come on this Saturday. It is there are very auspicious days in the year, particularly the appearance days of the Supreme Lord. For the three that we celebrate the most are Gaur Purnima, Shri Kṛṣṇa Janmashtami, and Lord Nrsimhadeva's appearance. So Saturday is the actual appearance day of Lord Nrsimhadev. And so we'll have a festival that starts at 4:15. There will be an Abhishek. There will be discussions, cultural program, drama. Understand? Of course, Arti, and always Prasadam. And Lord Nrsimhadev, just 5 minutes on Lord Nrsimhadev, maybe even 1 minute. Lord Nrsimhadev is the supreme protector of all of us. But what is he protecting? Our spiritual life. Our body is not so important. What is important is our bhakti. So the pastimes of Lord Nrsimhadev and his great devotee Prahlad Maharaj are elaborately explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto. And we'll be celebrating the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev. So he appears in this form to protect his devotee. And he shows that he protects his devotee in all circumstances. And Prahlad Maharaj shows by his behavior that in the midst of such incredible atrocities thrown upon him by his father, he maintained a very steady state of mind. How? Because he was fully serving and thinking of the Supreme Lord. So Saturday, if you have time, you come to the temple in Detroit. Very, very auspicious. Very nice festival you will see. So, please join.
How many hours is this event?
It'll start at 4:15, but you can come by 6 even. It'll go till 9. Till 9 o'clock. About 3 hours, 4 hours. There's a fasting time if those of you want to follow. The fasting is until dusk, which is 9 o'clock. I think at 8:58, so it's a little bit long fast. But you can take non-grains through the day. Fruits, nuts, milks, things like that. The full fast is not available to you, no problem. But main thing is we come and chant a little extra, read, and participate in it. These festivals enliven us in our spiritual life. Srila Prabhupada established a celebration of all these festivals to enthuse us in spiritual life.
What's our homework for next week?
Read verses 2 through 5. Chapter 2, 2.2 to 2.5. Did anybody read the introduction?
Mm-hmm.
You did? Great. And if you didn't read the introduction, read the introduction. It's a very powerful section. And bring your Bhagavad Gitas daily, weekly. Bringing this Bhagavad Gita with us is very, very important. You see, some of you have cloths. We don't put the Bhagavad Gita directly on the floor because our feet are touching the floor. This is non-different than the Lord. So we put on some cloth or a stand. Doesn't matter, it can be a paper bag. It is not what, but it's something. We carry it, in some kind of bag or something. Bring Bhagavad Gita and our chanting beads. Those two things we carry. It's very important. It's a service. It's a service we are performing to bring this Bhagavad Gita. And we'll read from it. Because reading from it, yes, we can read from it on our phones. We could read the verse. I can put it up on the slide. But it has a different potency when we are holding the scripture in our hands and reading it. So it's okay to read electronically at a convenience, but we should not replace it with reading the book itself. So I like he's always bringing this. It's a nice, contained bag. He brings every week. So this way you can bring your Bhagavad Gita. Again, when convenient, you may be coming from the office or somewhere out, no problem, we'll have them. But if you're coming from home, bring your Bhagavad Gita. It's nice. You'll experience it. Any other questions, or we'll start chanting?
Can you give me a card? I have to put some stuff on.
Yeah.
And we have to give it to you.
I'm getting